Hey Denchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and welcome to my review of the debut album from indie-tronic producer, musician, whatever you want to call him, Stephen. This one is called Sincerely. I'm gonna have to make the comparison right now just so I can kind of get it out of the way, and I'm probably going to make a few references to it throughout this video. I'm terribly sorry. Stephen has taken a direction since he started producing music in 2012 to that of Eden. I mean, the comparisons are pretty undeniable. They both had a name change between their former aliases and their new ones, his former being Stephen Swartz. They both made dubstep before they went into the indie-tronic scene, and they both received enormous popularity in recent months because of their very similar indie-tronic styles. Now, I'm not meaning to say these artists are exactly the same in any way, because they are two very different artists, they have very different backgrounds, they have very different lyrical themes, but the way they kind of achieved popularity was much in the same way, kind of going back from the same roots and leading into the same direction, and I hope that from that point we get to see them move off into two totally different directions and two totally different artists instead of having to be kind of in this weird similar moniker. For example, Eden's lyrics are a lot more depressing and his music is a little bit more poppy sounding now. Stephen's is a bit more experimental under electronic, centering toward maybe a little bit more of a future bass sound and with a little bit more brighter lyrics and maybe talking more politics instead of heavy alcoholic lyrics about relationships and flying, like Eden seems to do a lot, especially on his end credits EP. Like I said, I didn't really want to compare them too much, but you really have to get those kind of things out of the way before digging into something like this, as Eden is one of my favorite artists, and Stephen is kind of pushing toward that direction as well, because I'm really getting into this style. Also, vocally, they're very similar. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit of a difference because Stephen is based in LA and doesn't really have an accent, meanwhile Eden was born in Ireland and has an Irish accent, so that's going to be a bit of a difference too. However, throughout the majority of this album, Stephen's vocals are absolutely on point, and I love to hear the amount of range this guy has. Throughout the majority of this album, especially on the closing track, Sincerely, we get this awesome guitar solo that just rips right through your heart. This thing's experimental on all aspects, and I was pretty into it for the most part. Stephen didn't really gain mainstream recognition until his single Crossfire was uploaded to Suicide Sheep just a few months ago, which absolutely blew up, and I actually didn't find out about Stephen until the release of the title track Sincerely, which is the point that I decided to start checking him out and kind of getting into this. One of the saddest things about this record, I think, is that the singles from this are the most enjoyable, which has me thinking, okay, this guy had all these tracks recorded most likely about a year ago and just kind of planned on how to promote it and get this album out, and really pushed the best songs to be the singles for this, which is pretty saddening. There were some other ones, however, that I really did enjoy as well. One exception to the rule per se is that I actually didn't love Crossfire. It's a really good track. I love the production, definitely respect Stephen for producing something like this, but it just wasn't one of my favorites, and I really didn't dislike it. Along with most of the record is things that I really didn't dislike. I don't think I really disliked the single track on this, but for songs that really stuck out to me, it wasn't like every single track was like that. There were definitely a solid few that really poked out to me. A large majority were just kind of filler tracks in a way. Lyrically, this thing's all over the place. Like I said, he definitely talks politics on the track Sincerely. This thing could easily be a Bernie 2016 anthem. I think one of the most impressive things about this record is the entire thing was produced, sung, mixed, mastered, everything you can think of basically, by Stephen. The one exception on this is that he features the author in cue on a little bit of dialogue, which kind of seems to sound like a Spotify ad at first. That's the only feature on the entire album. The rest of it is entirely produced by him, and if you're a sound engineer, you'll understand the struggle of how many people would even say it's stupid to master your own songs, because it's very hard to get that second ear to know what you should do. And according to him, he's mastered this entire thing himself, which is just absolutely ridiculous. I can't comprehend mastering my own tracks, and actually making it sound as good as it does on this album. Of course, you definitely do see some inspiration from him drawing from some other artists on this one. I'm feeling a little bit of Ed Sheeran vibes on the starter track, Start a Fire, as well as some Macklemore vibes on the track Fly Down. Some of the oddities on this album include Your Life, which starts off pretty slow, but then progresses into this really experimental drop, which I really enjoyed toward the end, but the majority of the track is a little bit confusing. Absolutely nuts about the combination of production and vocals on the track, Remembering Myself, which, like I said, the singles are some of my favorites on this one, so obviously this one's going to fall into that category. Line It Up is one of the tracks that I enjoyed most without hearing it prior to the entire album. This thing is very, very groovy throughout the entire thing and made for one of the more bright tracks on the record. It's got a very unique sound as compared to the rest of it. Of course, you've got your kind of Stephen sounding vocal chops throughout it, which are featured on a lot of other tracks, including the title track. But this one in particular sounded really good, really stuck out to me. The seventh track out of 10 is called Outro, which I thought was a little weird. Of course, most people are going to think this is kind of weird, and of course, it actually does sound like it could have easily been an outro track, and maybe it originally was supposed to be the outro track for the album, but ended up somehow stuck in the 7th slot. This track is just super intense. It's a combination of ambience, piano, guitars, and then the vocals from Stephen himself just combine into this really awesome feeling. I especially love the reversed acoustic guitars that are at the end of this track. I thought that was really cool. Solid as a Stone and Mr. Man really aren't doing a lot for me, and then the album closes off with Crossfire and Sincerely, which I guess you could say are his two most popular tracks. Like I said, I'm into Crossfire and I'm really, really into Sincerely. This thing just goes absolutely nuts. This thing's all over the place. It's impressive. The lyrics are powerful. The melodies are beautiful. The guitar skills are out of the roof. Overall, I'm just really happy I snagged this thing before it went back on pre-order on iTunes. This thing is no longer available for download. It was supposed to release today as of recording this, but they ended up pushing the release date back to May 10th, so you guys, I guess, will be able to hear the whole thing. I have it because I went and downloaded it at midnight before they took it down, which I do feel bad about in a way, because you guys are going to have to wait to listen to this really awesome piece of music. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and toss this one an 8.5. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and make sure to look out for this album out very soon on Halfway House Records, May 10th. It'll be available on the Spotify link thing as soon as it's available. I'll try to remember to link it there as soon as it's available, but for now I'll probably just stick the pre-order link in there. Anyway, I'm Landon Remixes. I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll see you later. Peace.